Encountered a passport broke the Singapore airport.
See that swiping, just swiping right. Use shit like that. I got this comment from Meme Speech. Man-hating, shaming, delusional, ego as fuck, and white knighting simp. Pro-fem empathy, bias, anti-male sci-fi. I'm gonna need someone to break that down for me since I don't know what the fuck that means. Projecting perpetual femme victimhood and an innocence fantasy, princess deserver, male duties, and expendability as a given. Level field, what do you mean by that? That's not how relationship or life works. So, if you want to level the playing field, the first thing you have to do is not take things so personally. You know, you gotta look at women like it's a business. So, statistically speaking, you're more likely to fail than to succeed. But if you don't ever shoot your shot, you never get those attempts up, you're never going to succeed. And that's with anybody. And then also, my father, he taught me that if you're dating a big woman, make sure she pays what she weighs. And also make sure that that woman that you're dating likes you more than you like her. I personally thought that was bad advice, but you know, maybe you'll find some gems of knowledge in there, you know. But today, we'll be looking at the risk of what it would be, what might occur to you if you, for some reason, decide to, you know, catch something exotic in a foreign country.
Encountered a passport broke the Singapore airport.
See that swiping, just swiping right. Use shit like that. That'll shit.
Encountered a passport broke the Singapore airport.
Bad form. Not because of what it will turn into, but because
I don't know what y'all got going on in the Philippines, but according to the CDC,
that's bad form because you're basically opening yourself up to everything. Like, you need to have some type of filter on the women that you are choosing. Some type of filter. Whether it be foreign women or whether it be domestic women.
the Philippines has one of the highest HIV rates amongst their people than most of the world. Now, I know there's a lot of passport bros that's talking about they not messing with American women, they going over there to the Philippines. Y'all better be careful, because according to the CDC, you have a great chance of going over there to get infected, then come back to the States with something you can't shake. So I guess it's just not an American thing. People around the world is meat to meeting. I mean, like literally going at it raw diggity. Nobody is in fear for their own safety or health well-being. Listen, it's not worth it to get infected with a deadly disease for a quick 5 minutes. It's just not worth it. 5 minutes cost you the rest of your life. Now, I know some of y'all gonna come on here and say, ain't nobody dying for it, no more people are living. Forget all that living with it. Listen, nobody wants to be diseased. Who wants to be on a pill for the rest of their life? Here's the funny thing. Y'all talk about the American medical system is this, the American medical system is that. They don't take care of their people, but yet you're going out here having willy-nilly meat-to-meat sex with people. You end up catching an infectious disease and have to take a pill for the rest of your life. Guess what? You're going to have to depend on the government for the rest of your life. You're going to have to depend on the medical industry for the rest of your life. And y'all hate the government. Y'all always talking about the government is in y'all business. Well, guess what? They ain't got no choice but to be in your business now. Because if they ain't in your business, guess what? You ain't gonna have no life. Y'all better either practice abstinence or find somebody that you can lay down with for the rest of your life. Now, again, I don't want nobody to come on here talking about even the married people. Listen, if I want to be sexual, if I'm a sexual being, and I'd rather run the risk of being married to one person and getting my thing off with them than being single and going to this person and that person all the time. Every time I get itchy, no, not me. Not me. I don't know what y'all got going on.
So
I mean, I'm not saying you should marry every girl. You should only fuck with girls that you want to marry. I'm just saying you should take things slow. See what her demeanor is like. If she's out here talking to every guy, every foreigner that she comes across, maybe you want to strap up, whatever you want to call it. Don't let this temporary satisfaction be a permanent situation. You don't want to have to, every conversation that you have with a girl, you don't want to be like, yeah, and I gotta tell you something, babe. I have HPV.
26-year-old gentleman presents to your ER after he's noticed that he's developed a really strange rash. He states that he's been feeling, and I quote, pretty shitty over the past couple of days, experiencing fevers, chills, and body aches, and he also started to develop a rash on the palms of his hands and the soles of his feet. Upon obtaining further history, he mentions that he did have a painless sore on his lip as well as a similar sore on his genitalia that resolved on its own a few weeks ago. And now here's when things get really interesting. He apparently feels comfortable enough to tell you that he went out on a solo trip about 2.5 months ago overseas, where he was, and I quote, slanging schlong, in other words, having numerous sexual encounters with women, some of which he didn't even remember. He denies any other complaints, known sick contacts, or history of IV drug use. On exam, he's febrile and his heart rate is elevated. You also notice the rash that he told you about on the palms of his hands and the soles of his feet. So, what do you think the diagnosis is? What labs or imaging studies would you order for this patient, and how would you treat him? Go ahead and comment below, and within the next 24 to 48 hours, I'll be posting a second video discussing the diagnosis, labs to be ordered, as well as the treatment.
Well, I'll get that nigga a chastity belt, and I'll give the key to his mama.
So a 26-year-old gentleman presents. Alright y'all, so to recap, we have a 26-year-old gentleman who presents to your ER after noticing that he developed a very strange rash. A few months ago, he states that he was overseas slanging schlong, having multiple sexual encounters with various women. Since this trip, he developed a painless lesion on his lip as well as his genitalia that went away on its own, and also developed a rash on the palms of his hands and the soles of his feet. Although there are several diagnoses to be considered, one diagnosis that I would be concerned about is syphilis. Syphilis is an infection that generally occurs in stages. The first stage, or primary syphilis, presents as a papule wherever the microorganism is introduced. This can occur by means of contact of almost any tissue with infected secretions, including oral sex, as well as kissing or touching a person who has active lesions on the lips, the oral mucosa, breast, or genitals. The lesion is usually painless, eventually ulcerating, forming what we call a chancre, which resolves on its own in about 3 to 6 weeks. Secondary syphilis occurs within weeks to months of the chancre, resulting in a rash that classically involves the torso, arms, and legs, but most importantly, the dead giveaway is involvement of the palms of the hands and the soles of the feet. Now, tertiary syphilis usually occurs 10 or more years later, where you may have symptoms reminiscent of dementia, neurological changes, as well as diseases of the heart. Now, there are several screening tests available, including an RPR or a VDRL, as well as confirmatory tests. Let's not get too technical. With regards to treatment, you're typically looking at antibiotics, more specifically penicillin, benzathine, G.
So, I mean, I think you put it, you don't want to catch syphilis. You don't want to catch gonorrhea. You don't want to catch HPV. You don't want to catch HIV. You don't want to catch AIDS. You don't want to catch whatever the fuck they've been concocting within their own society that you may have not introduced to the states. For example, when I was in the military, there is a base. It's either in Vietnam or South Korea or whatever it may be, and they specifically say if you catch this specific disease, since there is no cure for it at home, you have to stay there. You really want to be a dual citizen? You really want to be at the whim of a foreign government? Mr. Travolta, 24. It's only a very small proportion of guys that travel and get up to no good. Stop hating on people traveling abroad. You're on the plantation, smoking green, unmade bed, and probably with a felony. You can't afford to travel, my guy. Boss up so you can leave the plantation. See, it's comments like that. It makes me wonder. Like, you don't know a whole lot about me, and that's understandable. But I don't have any felonies. I don't have any felonies. So you got one person saying that I'm simping for white knights. You got another person saying that I'm a felon. Like, I'm a travel content creator. So at the end of the day, I'm really only gonna talk about travel related things. It just so happens that passport bros like to travel. As a man who also likes to travel alone most of the time, there's an adjacent lane there. But yeah, I got called a a, a nut watcher. I'm torn about it. That's policing other men's junk. LOL. If people are consenting adults, then it doesn't matter though. People can travel what? People can travel whatever reasons they like. It's not like people in the West are lining up to get married or have long-term relationships. Well, with the way the economy is going now, might be making a return to traditional marriages. All right. How could you like? This is how I look at it. If you're shooting your shot overseas, when you come home, you should be able to shoot that shot more efficiently locally. Why? Because you don't have to buy a plane ticket to get over there. You don't have to pay for a hotel room when you get there. You can take this chick, down the street to the local restaurant. I don't want to watch. I'm not watching men's junk. I'm just saying you should watch your own junk, or be aware of the risks that could come with having unprotected sex. So at the very least, you should strap up.